Hello and welcome to Part 8 of the Academy of Functions ATF-Facilitator Certification Workshop. In this part, we'll be examining Indian club training. Indian clubs have been used for centuries to train appropriate shoulder mechanics. By extending the weight outward, you create an increased pendulum-like resistance. Indian clubs can be cost prohibitive, therefore an inexpensive alternative is to utilize weighted gloves. Choice of Indian clubs or weighted gloves is totally up to participant preference. The goals of this tool are to increase the mobility of the shoulder complex. This includes the glenohumeral joint or the shoulder joint and the scapulothoracic joint, or how the shoulder blade articulates with the rib cage. We'd like to increase stability, specifically rhythmic stabilization, and what this is a relationship of the firing of each muscle within the shoulder, both agonist and antagonist, or shortening and lengthening muscles, and a rhythmic and very specific pattern as to maximize the stabilization and force couples within the joint, both glenohumeral and scapulothoracic joints. We also want to increase strength, and specifically because we're working longer durations, more repetitions, we're focusing on muscular strength and endurance. And we also want to improve dynamic movement or functional movement of the shoulder joint. And again, we're looking at multiple joint, multiple plane, both scapulothoracic joint, glenohumeral joint, and we also will utilize the elbow. Using Indian club training. Again, proper posture and alignment is absolutely fundamental to all these skills. Draw in, stay tall, broaden the chest, stiffen the wrist, and we really want to trace with our elbow. This really allows us to protract or reach out and retract or squeeze the shoulder blades and to emphasize that full functional range of motion. So stiff wrist, big tracings with the elbows to maximize the mobility, and again, always working within our current mobility without sacrificing the quality of that movement. Always focusing on doing it well, so start slow. Common errors and corrections. Again, we can have pain. This is particularly true of the anterior shoulder. In this case, limit your range of motion. Limit how much you protract or reach out, and really focus on that retraction or that squeezing of the shoulder blade to decrease the pressure in that impingement on the anterior shoulder. If you cannot do this, please discontinue and consult your physician. Again, hunching or forward flexing of the head. Okay, this is a compensatory movement. When you lack strength or you lack mobility, this is a common reaction, is to forward flex the head. We ask you again, draw in, stay tall and stay long. Focus on that posture. Rounding of the shoulders. Many of us have that U1 dysfunction and already have a rounding of the shoulders, and we really need to focus on broadening that chest, big chest, and squeezing those shoulder blades together. This will help us maximize and improve that posture. Breaking of the wrist. When you break the wrist, you end up with primary motion coming from the wrist, thereby limiting the range of motion at the glenohumeral joint and at the scapulothoracic joint. So focus on keeping that wrist stiff and tracing with the elbow. Sloppy or uncoordinated movements. These are challenging movements. Once you master a single arm movement and then move to a two arm movement and then you will then reverse it, this is challenging. Slow the movement down. Progress using only that available mobility, and again looking at 6, the participant may say, I just don't feel anything, and this is usually because they're breaking that wrist or gaining the motion at the anterior shoulder, which they already have. We're trying to focus on that posterior shoulder, so really tracing with that elbow and keeping that wrist stiff. They will start to feel something, or you can increase the resistance or the weight. In summary, Indian club training is all about restoring the normal mobility and motion of the shoulder complex. Okay? Again, the shoulder is comprised of a shoulder joint and the shoulder blade / rib cage articulation, also known as the scapulothoracic joint. Emphasis needs to be on maintaining that stiff wrist and elbow tracing to ensure activation of the posterior shoulder and that scapulothoracic joint. This is a primary area of weakness for many participants. Okay? Really avoid ducking that head or the forward flexing of the head, and work on maintaining that posture, including the core, with a strong draw-in maneuver. For more demonstrations, you may follow this link to the demonstration video. And that concludes Part 8 of the Academy to Functions ATF Facilitator Certification Workshop.